the Special India Division of the German government, Dr. Alexander Wirth.
His arrival in Berlin had been prepared by the Foreign Office in connection with the Foreign Office in Rome and the Foreign Office in Moscow. When he had contacted the Italian first and the German embassy as the second in Kabul, these two, they were legations in those days. They were in touch with headquarters in Berlin, and these headquarters, namely the Foreign Office, through the Chancellery, went in touch with Rome and Moscow at once to see and to find out whether Bose, camouflaged as an employee of the Italian legation in Kabul, would and could travel sort of officially and openly, but camouflaged as His Excellency. He was called later on first as Mr. Orlando Mazzotta, employee of the Italian legation in Kabul, as such, with the passport of the Italian embassy, supported and signed by the authority of the Italian Foreign Office, from Kabul to Moscow, and fly from there again as Signore Orlando Mazzotta from Moscow to Berlin.
Netaji reached Berlin and addressed the Indian independence meeting in German.
Ihren unsterblichen Glauben an die Freiheit und ihren unerschütterlichen Entschluss, den Kampf bis zum Siege weiterzuführen, zu bekräftigen. In diesem Kampf, der für Indien ein Kampf Sein oder Nichtsein ist, kann es nur einen Ausgang geben, unseren gemeinsamen Sieg. Lang leben die Dreifachmächte und ihre Verbündeten. Lang lebe das freie Indien.
Bose raised an Indian legion of 3 infantry battalions and a company of regulars which would be trained to fight the British. He recruited many of the prisoners who received his proposals eagerly, for they were all imbued with the same thought, freedom for India from the British yoke. He hoped that when the time came for Indian liberation, his legion would spearhead the struggle. Here we may ask why Netaji chose to go to Berlin. Mr. A.C.N. Nambiar, Bose's ex-colleague, answers.
Because Germany was the principal country fighting Britain.
His attitude towards Hitler government?
He was critical of the Hitler government, but he did not worry very much about the ideological side of the Hitler government. He was only thinking the National Socialist government, the German government, in terms of one opposing Britain. And it's very likely and even probable, as his good friend Lothar Frank told me once, and he stated in his book of Dr. Wirth, that if Soviet Union had been fighting Britain, he might have, instead of coming to Berlin, gone to Moscow.
Bose's idea in organizing the INA in Europe is explained by another ex-colleague of Netaji, Dr. J.K. Banerjee.
Europe in war Here you have the clue why INA was organized in Europe. Simply put, the plan was to obtain military aid from the enemies of our enemy for putting an end to British rule in India. I would prefer, however, to let Netaji himself speak as to how he saw the role of the INA. Netaji never thought of the INA as a purely military instrument capable of liquidating all by itself the securely entrenched British Raj. Netaji saw the INA in its historical context as an integral part of the final episode in the unfolding drama of India's long struggle for freedom. INA was to be a catalyst, turning the freedom movement within India into an irresistible wave, sweeping away the political, economic, and social underpinnings of Britain's Indian establishment.
Mr. Nambiar, he met the Führer only once.
Only once, yes.
What was the purpose?
He wanted Hitler to give a declaration favoring Indian independence. Hitler observed great reserve to it, saying that time was not at opportune because he could not carry it out, his promises. His forces were still very remote from the Indian frontier. Then Bose said that Bose always was aware that Hitler had reserved the Indian independence movement, and he had made reference to it in his book Mein Kampf with some contemptuous references to India. Bose wanted these to be removed in another edition or a new edition. Hitler didn't give a promise, but said that he would give the matter his attention. Then Hitler explained about his the diffidence that he had about India achieving independence and made certain suggestions, which irritated Bose, and Bose said to the translator, you see, please tell His Excellency that I have sufficient experience of politics not to need his suggestions. The translator was Herr von Trott, a very distinguished German who was hanged in Germany. He politely toned down a little in diplomatic language. On the whole, the meeting was not a very happy one.
Back in India, Mahatma Gandhi frustrated the Crips mission and announced the Quit India movement. Thus, preparations are afoot to harden resistance to the British government. In Germany, Subhas Bose urged his fellow countrymen